All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. As always, let me share my screen. Go over a broad market outlook, over some top ideas, and let's get into it. All right. So a couple major markets and sectors worth reviewing really quickly. We have the Dow Jones and the S&P both doing basically the same thing, forming this major base here. Again, the Dow's run up, pretty extensively and has formed somewhat of a Mickey Mouse flag here, where if it does start to roll back over, under 33,600, if you're in some of these Dow Jones names, it could make some sense of potentially take some profit just given the run up it's had and just these two very kind of Mickey Mouse-ish flags that have been forming under this major resistance in this base. We're seeing the same thing out of the SPY. Again, it's been nearly a year that we've been in this base. May will officially be a year of us in this consolidation period, this stage one base. We know what typically follows that, stage two breakout, when mostly everyone else is taking the opposite. Most people are, Sheikh was mentioning last week about how puts are all-time highs, people expecting the market to roll over to new lows. When the charts, repeat themselves, and it might not happen in May, it may not happen in June or July, but eventually the longer this base forms, typically the longer the breakout that follows. So if we have a year of boring consolidation, when we leave that base, we should expect a year of a trending up market. If it bases for 2 years, same thing, should expect 2 years of a breakout. Given the base that we've been in, the measured move of this would take us to new highs. Basically, S&P 500 would be the measured move of the current base. So, all the more reasons to continue to increase those M1 contributions and weekly savings to dollar cost average in the market. Looking at some individual sectors, the two that I think are posed the best, in the short term are definitely the REITs right now, which is very defined, base little flag it's been in for quite some time now. We had a recent entry a few weeks ago. Next spot would be through, this is incorrect, I should say 84 here. But keep an eye on the REITs. I'll post that REIT watch list in the chat after this. And also the consumer discretionary sector as well, both doing the same thing, just, near a very, obvious resistance level. It's not very extended and it has some room to the upside, where sectors such as consumer staples are now retesting a major area of resistance. This is now the third attempt, gap up, doji at highs. This is a profit-taking area after the dramatic run-up has had. We saw the same, very similar action in healthcare as well. We had some buys up to the bases or some, recent ads, but you can see compared to the REITs and consumer discretionaries, we can see that basing or flagging consolidation period forming, or on the flip side, you have, staples and healthcare that are very extended in the short term. This is why we want to be taking profit in these sectors and looking to put money back to work in REITs and consumer discretionaries. So again, everything else looks pretty strong. Everything else is setting up very well nicely. There's really no sectors that look dramatically weak, which is a good sign. Swings for me, I just have this OPCH that's on. Again, I got shooken out on it on Thursday and I just had to buy it back. Again, I got shooken out and then it goes and breaks out. So this is when I had to buy it back. Again, risk to dollar, I'm only up 50 cents in it so far, 40 cents. So nothing to really brag about just yet. And this PODD, as it ticked new all-time highs on Friday, but on Thursday, I'm sorry, closed pretty poorly, but could be some profit taking for now, just given that stop versus 310 area. A couple orders in the system for the week ahead. We have this CRM, it's a little flag forming, and it's very tight risk, 2%. Earnings are out of the way until end of May, so plenty of time for a little trade here. Looking at a support buyback in this MYGN. So we were looking initially a week or two ago to buy this 24. It pulled back in. I was honestly expecting a shakeout of this 21 level, which did not occur. It did shake out 22 though. So looking to buy up through this 23. For now, I'll give it versus 22. I'm not going to give this thing $2 versus 21 area. So just keeping a little eye on this MYGN. This Yeti, which is one of Alex's names he was mentioning from a few weeks ago, still sitting up versus 40. Technically could have looked at buy up to 39, but for now, just focusing on this 40 area versus 38 pivot. And lastly, this Tesla, again, had a pretty decent, okay earnings. Gap down on it. Also had that SpaceX news, that rocket blowing up. But in a support here, 160 is kind of the line in the sand for now. and is looking for support buyback, buying up through 170, first 160. Again, earnings are out of the way. Kind of all the bad news that could happen with this name or relative to this name pretty much already occurred. So looking for that, trade where we kind of forget about it, up through 170 for a move, probably back into this 200 area is something I'm keeping, a pretty close eye on. I know Shake is keeping a close eye on this CSIQ through 4150. And we're both obviously keeping on this EXAS. For me, again, I had a buy stop and I canceled it. I had a 69 buy stop and I was not trying to buy this dramatic bullish engulf a day and basically mark the top. So I canceled that buy stop for now. For now, I'll probably just wait until 70, or if it can kind of pull back in, maybe shake 64 and then find that support buyback. I don't want to be buying in the upper end of the resistance area just yet. So this one's more on the radar, but definitely some opportunities out there. With that, my little speech is done. So Heaven, if you have any ideas you want to go over or some member ideas.
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple member ideas here. The first one, George is looking at LKQ, which I mentioned in the chat, looks pretty solid chart wise. It does have earnings in 3 days, so probably best to kind of wait for that. But I mean, definitely a post earnings potential if we get a nice gap up into that 59, 58 area. Looks really solid. Jay's looking at some interesting names, a little bit on the cheaper end, definitely not what we look at too much, but he's looking at this laser to the downside, which makes a lot of sense. I'm glad he wasn't looking at the upside, because if you zoom out, I mean, this thing is very bottom right. So if you are going to short stuff, I think the weaker stuff is probably the way to go. It is a little bit cheap though.
Yeah, this would be a hard pass.
Yeah. Andrew's looking at ARKK. Looking at a support buy basically through Friday's highs, as it's trying to hold this this 37 area. I'm assuming he's kind of targeting back up towards 40. Definitely has a long way to go to get back to all-time highs, but we can kind of see that stage one starting to develop down here.
Yeah, I mean, I see that even through 40 seems to be like this real like resistance area again, probably for the past not a year, but for quite some time now. So it seems 40 is the spot. If you can buy up, through that, what is he buying? 38 versus 37. I mean, you could be positioned for that. I think it makes sense. I think, again, I was never the biggest Cathie Woods or ARK fan, just because anytime a fund manager gets to become the most hype fund manager, it's typically up here, and that's when the move's over. So I didn't like it just from a price perspective, where like, when people loves her up here and now they hate her down here, but now it's back, it's reverted back to the mean, you can say. We're here again. She's buying Tesla. She's buying, a lot of these tech names that got smoked last year. But now that, if these names were to turn around, you're picking up, I think you're easier just picking the individual names and picking this fund in particular, but I definitely see what he's looking at here. And I think this makes way more sense than the people that were like betting the farm on her when she was up, 1,000% and she was the next Warren Buffett. And then she,
that's usually the kiss of death, right? Is the title of the next Warren Buffett is usually
that's
where it comes from, and then just falls from there. So we'll see. Eric just posted a couple tickers here in the chat. He's looking at Sono, SONO. He didn't give me an entry price on these, but I'm assuming maybe through like Friday's high, kind of like a low cheat area through 2060, with a stop just under 20, I guess 20, risking 60 cents, a little bit on the cheaper end, but from a risk standpoint, 60 cents on a $20 name is acceptable in my opinion, right? We're not risking $2 or anything like that. Stage one basing, so it looks pretty solid. I like this one for a move back up. I would expect a little bit of resistance around that 2080 area and then 2150, but after that it's kind of got some room to move back to like 24ish, so looks pretty good. Next one he's looking at is TENB. I think a few people actually mentioned this one over the weekend. Saw the chart, looks like it has earnings today. I don't know if it had it this morning or if it's after the close today.
No, I don't see anything yet, but
yeah, so it looks like it's after the close. Yeah, so probably don't want to trade that one today, but potential post earnings depending on how it sets up. And then the last one he's got is Shake Shack. Inside day Friday, earnings 10 days away, so it does have some time to move. Seems like you're kind of buying the middle of this chop though.
Yeah.
I would probably wait 58, 58, 60, give it that time to develop. Post earnings, probably gonna be a better setup in that area. Don't wanna
Yeah.
get chopped up in that.
I'm definitely with you on post earnings. I think really to that 60. We can see this level's been going back quite some time now where, you can see, so it's like, big breakout here, retest has a nice little bounce. It seems like this 60, when it really broke down here. So I think 60 is really going to be the spot for this name. I think waiting till after earnings definitely makes a ton of sense. But looks very good. Again, it's been basing out for more than a year in this area, in this range. So again, looks very good. Sport was 40 the same for the whole year. Now you can see it's kind of in this 50 area, all
Mhm.
healthy signs that it's going to start that kind of stair step climb higher. Maybe this earnings is the catalyst, maybe it isn't, but otherwise it still looks very good.
Yeah, I'm with you there 100%. Then a couple names that I'm looking at, that first one is actually the one you're looking at too, is CRM. I think
Mhm.
that one looks really, really solid through that 200 area. I got an order ready for the challenge account for that one. I'm going to buy one whole share,
Ooh,
see where that takes me. A couple of names I have on watch is this AVGO. A little bit of a indecision these last 2 days. If you zoom in, you can kind of see there's like a big top wick on Thursday, big bottom wick on Friday. So still needs a little bit more time, I think, to set up, but it's given a nice little wedge pattern there.
Mhm.
And I mean, a wedge pattern at all-time highs. This would be the third attempt through 650 if it can actually get through there.
Mhm.
I think looks pretty good. What else am I looking at? I'm looking at DV, which looks like it's gonna leave without me today. Oh, no, it came back down. It was at 3150, but it came back. Another one that's just textbook consolidation here. It's got 3 weeks of really, really tight price action. Looking for an entry through 31, stop under 30.
I like it.
Yeah, this one's a more recent IPO, kind of given also a stage one, like flagging at the top of the stage one base, which
Mhm.
looks really good. It had a nice move after its last earnings, not right away, but pulled back and then had a pretty strong move on the weekly chart. Looks good. The other one I'm looking at is Hubs, HUBS. This one looks ready to go. I would love to buy this in the challenge account, but I can't afford it yet. So we'll have to wait a little bit. But through that 625 or sorry, 425 looks really good. And then another one I got on watch is this JP Morgan. Still waiting for this flag to develop, but post earnings flag is exactly what I'm looking for. A couple more days or another week of consolidation on that 142 looks solid.
Mhm. Like it. All good
And
stuff.
then, yeah, I got a few. The last one here is NVIDIA. Seems like a very hated name lately. Just
Mhm.
everyone wants to short it, which is probably why it keeps going up.
Mhm.
It gave us a nice little pivot on Friday. Kind of like a little higher low. So I'm looking for a support buy on this one back into 280 with, I don't want to say hope, but expectations of it breaking through that 280 finally
Mhm.
on this little third attempt of this consolidation that it's had
Yeah.
over the last couple of weeks. We'll see. I mean, it's definitely overall it's extended, but I don't know, these names that are extended but can't seem to fail kind of give me some faith in them going higher. And yeah,
Yeah.
like you're mentioning there,
With these names,
retest.
it's like is again, it's up a lot percentage wise, but that's what we're looking at it. But it's like at this point, this name really it's like it's going to retest. It will retest the highs before it's going to see any dramatic lows, and
Mhm.
that's even like with like the CRM. It's like that same thing. Like I want to, this is like an M1 name for me, like a long-term hold, and I'll take profits up here at the retest. Of course, I'm going to like swing it through this 200. I'm not going to buy 200 and sell at 300, but the positions I have at M1, I'm going to hold until it retests. Same with all the other names I'm holding. Where same like this NVIDIA, if we're looking at from a swing trading standpoint of like, oh, it can't go any higher because it's gone so much so recently. But it's like the train has left the station. It's based for, we talked earlier about like the SPY, NVIDIA based out for a year, and it's only
Mhm.
been breaking out for March, April, February,
Yeah, just
March,
this year,
April.
not
It's been
even.
for 4 months. So it's still got it's got 3/4 of a year left to go of breaking out, whether that continues to here or continues higher. So that's where I'm with you in that thought of finding that next entry, even though, yeah, it's up a lot, but if you can find that spot where you can define your risk very tightly, you know,
Right.
why not?
Yeah, and if you really look at it, right, what we also want to see is we don't want to be buying breakouts when it's like multiple legs up already. If you
Mhm.
really look at Nvidia from the move that it made, this is really only the first consolidation since
Mhm.
maybe the second, right? There was a
Yeah,
little bit a little bit there.
this was like,
So
yeah, very
yeah,
loose.
I feel like the flag here is still acceptable. If you told me it was like the fifth, sixth
Mhm.
consolidation on its way up, probably not. But yeah, like you're saying, I think the path of least resistance here is back up to 350. I remember somebody mentioning in the chat that in the long term that they had Nvidia, they're up 100% on it. They wanted to take profits or something.
Mhm.
And in my head, I was just like, well, I mean, who's to say it can't go more than 100%, especially in the long term. And that's always the difficulty in the long term stuff, right? Is like
Mhm.
you could see these big percentages and you want to take profits when in reality, there's probably some more room to go there.
Yeah. I just keep looking at this, this elf that is like, this
Oh,
was like literally a perfect example of what you just said, where like I was buying this name for years in here
mhm.
and just could not, like, just didn't have the patience with it. And now you look at it and it's, I had buys in like 12, 13, $14. And now I'm like, this thing's, at 100. I'm just like, but that's,
Yeah.
again, that's the difficulty of when you're up 100, 200% in these names and you're looking at them every day. That's why we try to keep it separate, where it's okay, have your trading account here, have your
Mhm.
long term stuff somewhere else where you're not logging in daily looking at that percentage gain. And I know for Teller, it was up to 100% in NVIDIA. It's because it was at M1 and he's not looking at it every day. So
Yeah.
he at least was able to capture at least most of that. Where if it was in the account where it's, it's at TD and it's in the other account, you drop down and see it, it's a little easier to click the button a little sooner. So,
Absolutely.
all right,
But
with that, yeah.
yeah, looks really good. And shout out to Kusha on that elf. I know that he's in from 76. He's probably still holding this thing up a nice, like 25% since then. And that's the beauty of keeping those accounts separate, right? Is you can take advantage of the long term and these swings as well. So good stuff to him and anybody else who's in it.
Yeah.
That's everything on my end, Bennett.
Yeah. I mean, challenge wise, I think this week you're able to have up to 900 in the account.
Correct. Yeah.
Do you know off the top who's in the lead?
Let's check it out right now. Off the top, we got Brandon Beck at 875 right now, but this is I think he
Pre the
already
100.
added.
Okay.
Yeah, that was with 100. So I think Shake is actually in the lead at 943.
Okay.
So
That's good. Good for me.
yeah. Yeah, right.
Yes.
All right.
Shake, keep doing it. All right, guys. We'll see you in the chat. Also,
Yep.
again, if you guys want to come in at 5 today, we're doing like we're
Yeah, it'll
doing
be
I think
step 4.
step 4 today. Cool. We'll do a
Yep.
little
Step
step 4
4 or
class.
5. Yep.
All right, guys. See you guys later.
See ya.